Mara had been told 3 things about the chamber beneath the eastern tower. Never open the inner door. Never speak to what lived behind it. And if the lock failed, run. None of those instructions explained why she was carrying a tray of meat and water toward that same door under the red moon. The guard beside her refused to meet her eyes. Set the tray inside. Step back. We locked the door. At dawn, if you're still breathing, we'll let you out. Mara stopped. If. His jaw tightened. Move. The iron door groaned open. Cold air rolled out, carrying stone, blood, and something wild enough to make every instinct in her body scream. Before she could turn, a hand shoved between her shoulder blades. Mara stumbled inside. The door slammed. The lock dropped into place. For one terrible second, nothing moved. Then chains scraped across stone. A shape emerged from the darkness. It was enormous. Not a wolf. Not truly. The creature stood too high at the shoulder, its black fur broken by old scars, its eyes burning beneath a heavy brow. Its lips peeled back from teeth made for tearing through bone. Mara forgot how to breathe. The beast charged. She hit the wall. Claws struck stone inches from her boots. Then it stopped. The creature's head lowered. Its nostrils flared. Mara waited for the bite. Instead, the beast began circling her. Once. Twice. Slowly. It seemed almost confused. I'm not much of a meal, Mara whispered. The growl vibrating through the chamber made her regret speaking immediately. But the beast did not attack. It limped. Only then did Mara see the blood. A chain had cut deeply into one foreleg. Each step pulled the metal against the wound. Fear told her to stay against the wall. Something quieter told her the creature was hurting. Mara reached for the water bowl. The beast snapped its head toward her. Easy. She pushed the bowl across the floor instead of approaching. The creature watched her for a long moment, then lowered its head and drank. Mara looked down at her sleeve. This is a terrible idea. She tore a strip from the fabric anyway. When she moved closer, the beast growled. She stopped. It stopped. Mara moved again. This time it allowed her near. Enough to wrap the cloth around the worst of the wound. Its body trembled beneath her hands. Not weakness. Restraint. That frightened her more. The hours dragged toward dawn. Mara remained near the far wall while the beast positioned itself between her and the door, watching every sound beyond it. It never slept. Neither did she. When gray light finally slipped through the narrow ceiling vent, the beast rose. Mara stood carefully. For the first time all night, it approached without baring its teeth. Its massive head lowered. Then, with shocking gentleness, its forehead pressed against her open palm. Mara froze. The contact lasted only a heartbeat. The beast pulled away and disappeared into the darkness behind the chamber. Minutes later, bolts scraped outside. The guards opened the door. 3 men stared at Mara as though the dead had answered them. She walked past without explanation. By mid-morning, Alpha King Kael returned to the fortress. Mara saw him only from a distance as servants crowded the courtyard. Tall, broad-shouldered, silent. Then he removed one black glove. A fresh wound crossed his hand in the exact place the beast's chain had cut its leg. Mara's breath caught. Kael's gaze lifted, found her, and did not move. Later, inside his private chamber, the Alpha King unfolded a blood-stained strip of cloth torn from a servant's sleeve. His expression hardened. Bring me the girl who survived. By noon, Mara had convinced herself that the king's summons could mean only one thing. She had survived something she was never supposed to survive. Now Alpha King Kael wanted to know why. 2 royal guards escorted her through corridors she had spent years cleaning, but had never been permitted to enter as anything except a servant. Neither man answered her questions. They stopped outside a pair of dark wooden doors, and one guard opened them. Inside, Mara stepped through. Kael stood beside a tall window with his back to her. He had changed since the courtyard. His black coat was immaculate, his injured hand covered by a fresh glove. On the table beside him lay the strip of cloth Mara had torn from her sleeve. Her stomach tightened. The doors closed behind her. Kael turned. Up close, he was more intimidating than any story about him had prepared her for. He did not need to raise his voice or display his rank. Authority seemed built into the stillness of his body. Tell me what happened last night. Mara swallowed. I was ordered into the chamber. I know that. They locked the door. His jaw tightened. And then, she hesitated. The truth sounded impossible even inside her own head. The beast came toward me. Kael's expression remained controlled. Did it attack you? No, something changed in his eyes. Not relief exactly. Something sharper. What did it do? It watched me. Nothing else. It circled me. Kael took one step closer. Mara instinctively moved back. He stopped immediately. What else? It drank some water. His gaze dropped briefly to the cloth on the table. Mara understood what he really wanted to know. It was injured. Kael went completely still. I wrapped the wound. With this. He touched the torn fabric with one gloved finger. Yes. For the first time, Mara wondered how the cloth had reached him. Kael looked at her again. Where did it touch you? The question came too quickly. Mara frowned. Why? Answer me. At dawn it pressed its head against my hand. That was all. His shoulders eased almost imperceptibly. Then his gaze dropped to her wrist. Mara had forgotten the thin scratch there, probably caught against the stone while she had scrambled away from the beast's first charge. Kael crossed the room before she understood he had moved. He caught her forearm. His grip was careful. His reaction was not. A low sound escaped his throat. Mara stared at him. Kael stared at the scratch as though someone had driven a blade through her arm. Who did this? I don't know. The wall perhaps. The beast. No, his fingers loosened. Mara pulled her arm back. For one brief instant, anger flashed across Kael's face. Not at her, she realized, but at the possibility that the creature had hurt her. Then everything disappeared behind royal composure. You will be moved from the servants' quarters today. Mara blinked. What? A room has been prepared near the royal wing. Her fear returned immediately. I haven't told anyone what happened. That is not why. Then why am I being kept here? You already live here. You know what I mean. Kael's eyes narrowed. Mara should have lowered her gaze. Instead she held his. If I've committed some offense, tell me what it is. You haven't. Then let me return to my work. No, one word. Absolute. Mara's hands curled at her sides. So I am a prisoner. A muscle moved in his jaw. You are under my protection. From what? Silence. That frightened her more than an answer would have. Kael turned toward the guards. She does not leave the fortress. No one takes her below the eastern tower. No one enters her room without authorization. Mara stared at him. Protection with guards and forbidden doors sounded remarkably like imprisonment. By evening, her few belongings had been moved to a small chamber near the royal apartments. The guard who had laughed when she was pushed into the beast's chamber was gone. Another stood in his place and refused to explain where the first had been reassigned. Over the next 2 days, Mara began noticing something stranger. Kael was everywhere. Across the training courtyard. At the end of a corridor. On the gallery above the great hall. Never close. Always watching. And whenever Mara noticed him, he looked away first. On the third evening, she passed an open council room and saw him alone inside. The blood-stained strip of her sleeve rested beside his hand. He had kept it. Kael looked up. Their eyes met. There was nothing cold in his expression now. The intensity there made Mara stop breathing. For one suspended moment, he looked at her as though crossing the distance between them was the only thing he wanted. Then his gloved hand closed around the cloth. He turned away. Mara continued down the corridor with her pulse racing. If the Alpha King intended to punish her, he had chosen a strange way to do it. And if he intended to protect her, she still had no idea what he believed she needed protection from. Mara spent the next morning trying to find a way out of a prison no one would admit was a prison. The guards did not stop her from walking through the fortress. They merely followed. Whenever she approached an outer gate, no chains restrained her, no locked door confined her. Yet every path leading beyond the walls somehow ended with the same polite command. His Majesty's orders. By afternoon, frustration had replaced fear. If Kael believed she knew something dangerous, then Mara would prove that she knew nothing worth guarding. She went to the royal archive. Servants were permitted inside when sent to retrieve records, and Mara had done so often enough that the elderly clerk barely noticed her enter. She began with maintenance reports from the Eastern Tower, then searched backward through guard rotations and supply ledgers. Nothing explained the beast. She was about to give up when a repeated phrase caught her attention. Red Moon. The words appeared in a physician's schedule from 3 years earlier. On the same night, the king had received no visitors due to illness. Mara found another record. Another red moon. Again, Kael had been unavailable. She pulled a third ledger from the shelf. The pattern repeated. Her fingers tightened around the page. The beast appeared beneath the Eastern Tower on red moon nights. And on those same nights the Alpha King disappeared. A faint sound came from behind her. Mara turned. Kael stood at the end of the aisle. She nearly dropped the ledger. Neither spoke. His gaze moved from her face to the open records. "You were told not to leave the fortress," he said. "I haven't. You were not told to investigate me." "No. You simply refused to answer me." His expression hardened. Mara closed the ledger. "If you want me to stop asking questions, let me go." Kael walked toward her. "You think freedom is the only thing at stake?" "I don't know what's at stake because you won't tell me." She stepped backward and struck the shelf. A heavy volume shifted above her. Kael's eyes snapped upward. "Mara!" The shelf lurched. He crossed the distance instantly, catching her around the waist and pulling her aside as several books crashed onto the floor. Mara found herself against his chest. For a heartbeat neither moved. Then Kael inhaled. His entire body went rigid. Mara felt his hand tighten at her waist. Not painfully. Desperately. His eyes closed as though proximity itself hurt him. "Your Majesty?" Kael opened his eyes. Mara stopped breathing. For an instant something unfamiliar moved through them. A brightness too sharp and too wild to belong to the controlled man she had watched across palace corridors. She had seen those eyes before. In darkness. Watching her from behind teeth and black fur. Mara lifted one trembling hand toward his face. Kael followed the movement. He almost leaned into it. His fingers flexed against her waist. The nails beneath his glove pressed outward, changing the shape of the leather. Mara stared. "Kael." His name seemed to break whatever held him there. He released her and stumbled backward. The distance between them opened so suddenly that Mara nearly lost her balance. Kael turned away. "Leave." She did not move. The beast's eyes. "Leave. You disappear every red moon." His injured hand curled into a fist. "Enough." Mara's fear returned, but curiosity was stronger now. "What happened to your hand?" Kael looked down at the glove. A dark spot appeared across the fabric. Blood. He had clenched his fist hard enough to reopen the wound. Mara remembered another wounded limb beneath another strip of blood-stained cloth. She took a step toward him. Kael immediately stepped back. That stopped her. He was the Alpha King, the most powerful man in the fortress. Yet he was retreating from a servant. "Mara." His voice had changed. Lower. Rougher. "Do not come closer." She obeyed. Kael's breathing slowed. The strange brightness in his eyes faded. When he finally faced her again, the mask of the king had returned. "You will stay away from me." "What?" "No private rooms. No archives. No approaching me unless summoned." The word struck harder than Mara expected. "You're the one who brought me near the royal wing." That was a mistake. She stared at him. 3 days of watching her. Guards placed around her. A blood-stained piece of her sleeve kept beside his hand. And now this. "Then release me." Kael said nothing. Mara laughed once without humor. "You won't let me leave, but you don't want me near you." His expression tightened. "Correct. That makes no sense." "It doesn't need to. To you perhaps." Mara walked past him. This time Kael did not stop her. That evening, a healer carrying a small locked case passed Mara near the royal apartments. 2 guards opened Kael's door, and the healer disappeared inside. Mara caught the bitter medicinal smell before the door closed. Hours later, she passed the corridor again. The healer was gone. Kael stood alone near the window inside his chamber, one hand braced against the stone frame. On the table beside him sat an empty vial. His face was pale. His injured hand was freshly bandaged. Mara remained hidden beyond the doorway. Whatever medicine he had taken had not made him look stronger. It had made him look exhausted. She remembered the archive, the red moons, the wound, those impossible eyes, and the way Kael had nearly touched her before forcing himself away. For the first time, Mara considered that his distance might not be rejection. It might be restraint. By the next morning, Mara had decided she was finished accepting contradictions as answers. Kael had ordered her to stay away from him, so she did. She avoided the royal apartments, stopped searching the archive, and returned to whatever servant duties she was still permitted to perform. Yet distance did nothing to restore the life she had known before the Eastern Tower. People had noticed. Whispers followed her through the corridors now. The girl who survived. The king's strange little prisoner. His newest target. Mara ignored them until a court attendant intercepted her outside the lower hall. "Lord Varric wishes to speak with you." "I don't serve Lord Varric." The attendant smiled without warmth. "He didn't ask whether you did." Lord Varric waited beneath the covered passage overlooking the inner courtyard. He was dressed too elegantly for the cold, every silver clasp positioned with deliberate care. His smile made Mara uneasy. "So," he said, studying her, "you are the servant who survived the Eastern Tower." Mara kept her face blank. "I don't know what you mean." "Of course." He stepped closer. "They say men have died for less than seeing what you saw." "I saw a dark room. And the beast." Her pulse jumped. Varric noticed. "What did it look like?" "I was frightened." "Did it speak?" "No." "Did you see where it came from?" "No." His pleasant expression thinned. "You understand that anything threatening the crown concerns the entire kingdom." "Then ask the king." Something cold entered Varric's eyes. "I am asking you." Footsteps sounded behind them. Varric looked past her. Mara did not need to turn. She felt the change in the air first. "She's answered you." Kael's voice was quiet. Varric bowed, but the gesture contained little respect. "Your Majesty, I was merely concerned about palace security." "You will express that concern to me." "Surely a servant can answer a few harmless questions." Kael moved beside Mara, not touching her, close enough that Varric stepped back. "She will not answer yours." The finality in his voice ended the conversation. Varric bowed again. "As you command." His gaze settled on Mara before he left. It was not defeat. It was calculation. Kael waited until the passage was empty. "You were told to stay away from me." Mara turned on him. "I was." "Then why are you here?" "I was working." His jaw tightened as though this somehow irritated him more. "From today, you will serve only within the royal wing." Mara stared at him. "You can't be serious." "I am." "You tell me to stay away from you, then move me closer to you?" "It keeps Varric from reaching you without being noticed." There. An answer. Not enough, but finally something. "So this is protection again?" "Yes." "From him." "Among others." "Who are the others?" Kael's expression closed. Mara gave a bitter laugh. "Of course." She walked away before he could dismiss her. The change in duties only made the rumors worse. By evening, servants stopped speaking when Mara entered rooms. Courtiers watched her from across halls. She could feel the question spreading faster than any official explanation. Why would the Alpha King care what happened to one servant? Mara wanted the answer to. She found Kael alone near the council chamber after sunset. This time she approached deliberately. He saw her coming and immediately straightened. "You shouldn't be here. You assigned me here." His mouth tightened. Mara stopped several steps away. "Why are you doing this?" "Doing what?" "Watching me. Guarding me. Moving me closer every time you tell me to stay away." Kael's eyes held hers. "You are safer where I can know where you are." "That isn't an answer." "It is the only one you're getting." No, the word surprised them both. Mara continued before courage abandoned her. "If I'm dangerous to you, tell me why. If you're dangerous to me, tell me that instead. But stop treating me like something you need to protect and escape from at the same time." For several seconds Kael said nothing. Then footsteps approached from the adjoining corridor. Varric appeared with two court officials. His gaze moved from Kael to Mara. "How fortunate," he said. I was just looking for our mysterious survivor. Kael stepped between them. Varric stopped. She is required outside the western gate tomorrow, he said smoothly. A formal account of the Eastern Tower incident has been requested. No. The request concerns royal security. She stays here. Varric's eyebrows rose. You seem unusually invested in that decision. Kael moved. It happened so quickly Mara barely saw it. One moment he stood beside her. The next, Varric was backed against the stone wall, Kael's hand gripping the front of his coat. The two officials froze. Kael's face remained terrifyingly calm. You will not take her anywhere. Varric swallowed. Your Majesty. Kael released him. Leave. Varric adjusted his coat with trembling fingers and walked away without another word. Mara stared at Kael. That was not necessary. His breathing had changed. Perhaps not. You nearly attacked him. I didn't. Because you stopped yourself. Kael looked at her. Something in his expression made the corridor suddenly feel too small. Mara stepped closer. Thank you. She touched his hand. Kael recoiled as if burned. His eyes flashed with that same unnatural brightness. A rough sound caught in his throat. Then he turned and walked away so quickly that Mara could not follow. Much later, passing his chamber, she noticed darkness beneath the door. Then something darker spread across the stone. Blood. Mara stopped. From inside came a low, muffled growl. She raised her hand toward the door. The sound stopped. For one suspended moment she almost knocked. Then she remembered his warning. Do not come closer. Mara lowered her hand. She finally understood one part of the mystery. The Alpha King was not keeping his distance because he feared what she might discover. He was keeping his distance because he feared himself. For the next 2 days Mara obeyed Kael's warning. She did not approach his chamber again. She did not ask about the blood beneath his door. She did not mention the growl. But avoiding Kael did not mean escaping his attention. Whenever Mara crossed the royal wing, a guard seemed to know where she was going. Whenever her duties took her into the courtyard, someone remained within sight. And whenever Lord Varric appeared nearby, Mara noticed the protection tighten around her. By the third morning it felt less like safety and more like waiting for something to happen. The message arrived before noon. Mara was needed at the hunting grounds to inventory supplies left in one of the storage shelters after a royal patrol. It was ordinary work. That was why she did not question it. 2 guards accompanied her through the western gate, following the narrow path into the forest. The hunting grounds were quiet beneath a pale sky, the trees dense enough to hide the fortress within minutes. Mara had just reached the small supply shelter when one guard heard something beyond the trees. He turned. The second followed his gaze. A branch cracked somewhere uphill. Then another. The horses tethered nearby suddenly pulled against their reins. Stay here, one guard ordered. Both men moved toward the sound. Mara watched them disappear between the trees. Silence returned. Too quickly. Her unease sharpened. She stepped backward toward the shelter. A heavy wooden rack beside the path shifted. Mara heard the rope snap before she understood what it held. Several hunting poles and weighted timber supports collapsed toward her. She jumped aside. One struck the ground where she had been standing. Another caught her shoulder and sent her sprawling down the slope. Pain flashed through her arm. She tried to rise. Loose earth slid beneath her boots. Mara grabbed a root before she could tumble farther, but the soil beneath it began tearing free. Mara! Kael's voice cut through the trees. She looked up. He was running toward her. The root ripped loose. Mara fell. Kael reached the edge and caught her wrist. For one terrifying second, her weight dragged him forward. Then his other hand locked around her forearm. He pulled her upward with a strength that seemed almost impossible. Mara collapsed against him. Kael dropped to one knee, holding her so tightly she could feel his heartbeat hammering through his coat. Mara! She had never heard him say her name like that. Not as a command, as fear. I'm all right. He pulled back just enough to inspect her face, then her shoulders, then her hands. Where are you hurt? My shoulder. His expression darkened. Anything else? No, Mara. No, only then did some of the tension leave him. The missing guards came crashing through the trees moments later, calling for her. Kael did not even look at them. His arms remained around Mara. Too close. Too long. She should have stepped away. Instead, she became aware of something beneath the violent rhythm of his breathing. A vibration. Low. Deep. A sound she remembered from a stone chamber beneath the eastern tower. Her body went still. Kael felt it. His arms loosened. Mara looked up at him. The same sound rolled through his chest again. Not quite a growl, but close enough. Everything she had been refusing to assemble suddenly aligned. The wound. The red moons. The eyes. The blood. The way he knew exactly what she had experienced. The way he had asked where the beast touched her. Mara whispered. Were you there that night? Kael froze. The forest seemed to disappear around them. He did not answer. Mara searched his face. Kael. His silence was more frightening than denial. You were there. Still nothing. But he did not tell her she was wrong. Mara lifted her hand. She had meant only to touch his cheek. Kael caught her wrist before her fingers reached him. For an instant neither moved. His gaze dropped to her mouth. Mara's pulse stumbled. The fear between them changed into something warmer and far more dangerous. Kael slowly released her wrist. His hand rose toward her face. He leaned closer. Mara did not retreat. Their breaths nearly touched. Then Kael's expression twisted. He jerked backward. His eyes flashed with that impossible brightness. Mara saw his fingers change. The nails lengthened against his gloves, pressing into sharp points. His breathing became rough. Kael. Don't. He turned away from her, shoulders rigid. Mara took one step toward him. Don't come closer. The words sounded forced through clenched teeth. The guards had stopped several yards away, uncertain whether they were permitted to approach. Kael pressed one hand against a tree. His fingers dug into the bark. Slowly, painfully, his breathing steadied. When he looked at Mara again, his eyes were normal. But whatever had almost happened between them was gone. By sunset, Mara received new orders. She was to leave the fortress before the next red moon. A carriage would take her beyond Kael's territory. Money and provisions would be provided. She would be free to choose where she went afterward. Mara read the order twice. Then a third time. She had spent days demanding freedom. Now that Kael was finally giving it to her, it felt nothing like victory. He had nearly kissed her. And something inside him had answered. Mara folded the order slowly. The Alpha King wanted her. She no longer doubted that. The question was why wanting her frightened him enough to send her away. Mara carried the departure order to the royal wing the next morning. She had not packed. Kael was standing over a table covered with maps when she entered his chamber. His expression hardened the moment he saw the folded paper in her hand. You were told not to approach me. And I was told to leave. Yes. I won't. His gaze lifted fully to hers. That isn't a choice I'm offering. Then stop calling it freedom. Kael's jaw tightened. Mara placed the order on the table between them. For days you kept me inside these walls because you claimed I needed protection. Yesterday you nearly changed in front of me. And now suddenly the safest place for me is somewhere beyond your territory. You will leave before sunset. Why? Kael looked away. Mara felt anger rise. Is it because of the red moon? His eyes returned to her. That was answer enough. What happens to you? Nothing you need to understand. I survived one night in that chamber. I think I've earned more than that. Kael's hands flattened against the table. You survived because you were fortunate. No, the word came quietly. Mara remembered the beast drinking from the bowl she had pushed toward it. The trembling body beneath her hands. Its forehead against her palm. It chose not to hurt me. Kael's face went still. And that frightens you. Leave, Mara. She stepped closer. Kael immediately moved back. That familiar retreat hurt more now. You keep deciding what I should fear. His voice dropped. You should fear me. Before she could answer, the chamber door opened. An elderly healer entered carrying the same locked case Mara had seen before. He stopped when he noticed her. Kael's expression turned cold. Out. Mara did not know whether the command was meant for her or the healer. The healer answered first. She already knows about the moon, doesn't she? Kael said nothing. The old man looked exhausted rather than surprised. Mara turned toward him. What happens during a red moon? Mara, Kael warned. The healer hesitated. Then he set the case on the table. The king's bloodline carries a feral inheritance. Under a red moon, the instincts normally controlled by reason become stronger. How much stronger? The healer glanced at Kael. Strong enough that his ancestors learned not to trust themselves around those they cared for. Kael's face had become unreadable. Mara understood the careful wording. Did they hurt people? Yes. The answer came from Kael. Mara looked at him. He continued before the healer could. Some killed people they loved. Silence settled over the chamber. Suddenly the stone room beneath the eastern tower made terrible sense. The chains. The locked doors. The isolation. You put yourself down there. Kael's eyes sharpened. I said enough. Not a denial. Still not the full truth. Mara looked at the healer's case. The medicine suppresses the symptoms, the healer said. Usually. It has become less effective. Kael turned on him. That will be all. The healer bowed and left. Mara remained. Since when? Kael did not answer. Since that night. His silence tightened something inside her. She remembered the way he had almost kissed her in the forest before his hands began changing. Is it because of me? No, too fast. Mara stared at him. Kael closed his eyes briefly. When he spoke again, his voice was quieter. Your presence affects it. He opened his eyes. Don't ask me for answers I cannot safely give you. Mara's pulse quickened. How? You calm what should not be calmed. That was the first truth. Then came the second. And you provoke what should never be encouraged. Mara stopped breathing. Kael turned away from her. The closer you are, the harder restraint becomes. The farther away you are, the more difficult it becomes to ignore where you are. A chill moved across her skin. It explained the corridors, the watching, the constant distance. You don't understand what that means, he said. Then explain it. No, Mara almost laughed. Even now, even after everything. He would give her pieces and expect obedience. Before she could answer, bells sounded from the courtyard. Not alarm bells. Council bells. Kael's expression changed immediately. A guard entered moments later carrying a sealed document. Your Majesty, Lord Varric has petitioned the council for an emergency hearing. Kael broke the seal. Mara watched his eyes move across the page. What does he have? She asked. The guard hesitated. Kael answered. Evidence concerning the Eastern Tower. Mara understood. Varric had never been interested in her survival. He had been looking for whatever Kael was hiding. If he proves you lose control, he will argue that a king who cannot govern himself cannot govern a kingdom. The political trap finally became visible. Varric needed the beast. And Mara was the only witness known to have survived it. Kael folded the document. You leave today. No, his gaze snapped toward her. Varric knows you matter now. That makes you leverage. And sending me beyond your protection makes me safer? It puts distance between you and what he wants exposed. And between me and you. Kael did not deny it. Outside the window, daylight had already begun its slow decline. Mara looked toward the sky. How long? Kael knew what she meant. One night. The next red moon would rise tomorrow. The truth clock had begun. For the first time, Mara understood that Kael's order was not punishment. It was not imprisonment reversed. It was protection. But understanding did not make the decision his to make. She picked up the departure order. If I leave, she said, it will be because I choose to. Kael's expression tightened. Mara, you don't get to decide for both of us forever. She turned toward the door. Behind her, Kael said nothing. Mara walked away knowing two things with terrible certainty. The next red moon could destroy the Alpha King's throne. And whatever lived inside him had already begun reacting to her in ways neither of them could control. Mara found Kael before sunset in the same chamber where he had first questioned her. Her travel cloak was fastened around her shoulders. The small bag containing everything she intended to take waited downstairs beside the carriage. She had made her choice. But she would not leave with half the truth. Kael stood near the window watching the daylight fade. You should already be gone. I will be. His shoulders eased slightly. After you answer me. They tightened again. Mara closed the door behind her. No more pieces. No more warnings without explanations. I know about your bloodline. I know the red moon changes you. I know my presence affects whatever happens to you. Kael turned. That is enough. No, Mara. Were you the beast? Silence. This time she refused to let him hide inside it. The wound was the same. You had my cloth. You knew where the beast touched me. Your eyes change when I get too close. You disappear whenever the red moon rises. Kael's face remained motionless, but his breathing changed. Mara stepped forward. He did not retreat. Tell me. For several seconds, she heard only the faint sounds of servants preparing the fortress for night. Then Kael removed his glove. The scar across his hand was still visible. The beast was me. The words landed without surprise. Mara had already assembled the truth. Hearing him admit it still changed everything. She remembered black fur rushing from the darkness. The teeth. The chains. Her hand against an injured limb. The enormous head lowering into her palm. You were conscious? Sometimes. How much? Enough to remember pieces. Never enough to trust myself. And that night, Kael looked at her. I remember you. Something in his voice made her pulse quicken. I remember your fear. The water. Your hands on the wound. His gaze dropped to the sleeve she had repaired where the cloth had been torn away. I remember deciding not to touch you. Mara frowned. You did touch me. At dawn. Yes. Kael's expression darkened. That was the problem. He walked away from the window. Every red moon before you, I endured the change until it ended. Chains, medicine, isolation. It was brutal but predictable. And after me? It began looking for you. Mara went still. Kael continued. When I returned to myself, I could still find your scent. I knew which corridor you had crossed, which room you had entered. The memory of his constant presence throughout the fortress returned with new meaning. You were following me. I was trying not to. The admission was almost bitter. Then why summon me? Because I needed to know whether it had hurt you. And after you knew it hadn't? I should have sent you away immediately. But you didn't. No, his gaze held hers. I wanted you where I could see you. Mara felt the answer before he finished. And the beast wanted the same thing. Kael's jaw tightened. Yes. The word chilled her, not because she feared him, but because she finally understood the conflict that had been tearing through him. Every time Kael moved closer, he wanted her. Every time he withdrew, he was protecting her from that wanting. Why does it react to me? I don't know. No prophecy. No secret explanation. Only uncertainty. Kael looked toward the approaching dusk. But I know what happens when instinct decides something belongs to it. Mara's expression hardened. I don't belong to it. I know. Do you? His eyes returned to hers. That is why you're leaving. There it was. Not rejection. Restraint. Kael stepped closer, stopping well before touching her. The beast doesn't understand the difference between protecting and possessing, between wanting someone near and refusing to let them go. And you do. I must. Mara's anger softened but did not disappear. You think loving me makes it stronger. For once, Kael did not hide behind silence. Yes. The answer hurt more than she expected. He continued quietly. The more I want you, the harder it becomes to believe I can keep that want from becoming something you never chose. Mara looked at the man who had frightened an entire court simply by entering a room. He was afraid of becoming a cage. So every time you pushed me away, I was trying to make certain there remained a distance I could not cross. And now there isn't enough distance inside these walls. Mara's eyes burned. She wanted to tell him he was wrong. She wanted to stay and prove it. But tomorrow the red moon would rise, Varek was preparing to expose him, and Kael himself did not know what his next transformation would do. Trust did not mean pretending danger was harmless. Mara stepped backward. Kael let her. That mattered. I am leaving, she said. Pain crossed his face before he concealed it. Good. Not because you ordered me to. I know. Because I'm choosing not to become another weapon Varek can use against you. And because neither of us knows what tomorrow night will bring. Kael inclined his head. Mara reached the door. Her hand rested on the handle. Kael. He looked at her. You should have trusted me with the truth sooner. Yes. No defense. No excuse. Mara opened the door. For one heartbeat she almost turned back. Instead she walked away. Kael did not follow. For the first time since the night in the Eastern Tower, Mara passed through the fortress gates without guards stopping her. The carriage waited beyond them. She climbed inside by her own choice. As the fortress disappeared behind the trees, Mara understood the truth she had once feared most. The Alpha King had made her his target because the beast inside him had remembered her. But Kael had spent every day since fighting the one command that instinct kept giving him. Find her. Keep her. Never let her go. And tomorrow night, under the red moon, Mara would discover whether distance was enough to make that command disappear. The carriage had been traveling for less than an hour when the horses began to panic. Mara gripped the window frame as the driver pulled hard on the reins. What is it? Before he could answer, a distant howl rolled through the forest. The horses reared. Mara knew that sound. The red moon was not supposed to rise until nightfall. She pushed open the carriage door and looked toward the fortress. Above the trees, its highest towers were still visible against the darkening sky. Then bells began ringing. Not council bells. Alarm bells. A rider appeared on the road behind them, driving his horse hard. Mara! She recognized one of the royal guards. The carriage stopped. The man barely waited for his horse to settle before speaking. The Eastern Tower has been breached. Mara's blood went cold. How? Lord Varek. He brought the council to witness the king's condition. Someone opened the containment chamber before the transformation was complete. Mara stared at him. Where is Kael? The guard's silence answered first. The beast escaped. Mara looked toward the forest. Did it attack anyone? No, relief struck so quickly she almost swayed. Then where did it go? The guard looked at her. And Mara understood. It was looking for her. The driver urged her back into the carriage. We need to move. Mara did not. Every instinct told her to continue away from the fortress. Put miles between herself and the creature hunting her. Let Kael's soldiers handle it. Then she imagined armed men surrounding the beast. Spears. Arrows. Fear. Kael fighting inside something no one else could see. How many soldiers are searching? All available patrols. They'll kill him. If they have to. Mara stepped down from the carriage. The guard caught her arm. You cannot go back. She pulled free. Yes, I can. Mara, the king ordered. The king isn't here to order me now. The words silenced him. This choice belonged to her. Take me back. By the time they reached the fortress, darkness had fallen and the red moon hung above the Eastern Tower. Chaos filled the courtyard. Council members crowded behind guarded doors while soldiers prepared to search the surrounding woods. Varek stood among them, pale but composed, insisting loudly that everyone had witnessed what Kael truly was. Mara did not stop. She crossed the courtyard toward the Eastern Tower. A captain blocked her path. The chamber isn't secure. That's why I'm going there. You'll die. Maybe. The word frightened her. She said it anyway. If the beast is looking for me, sending soldiers through the forest only gives it more people to fight. The captain hesitated. Another howl sounded beyond the walls. Closer. Mara entered the tower. She descended alone. The containment chamber looked almost exactly as it had on the first night, except the inner lock hung broken and one chain had been torn from the wall. Mara stepped inside. She remembered being shoved across this threshold. Remembered the door locking behind her. This time no one pushed her. She turned toward the guards above. Leave the door open. Then she waited. Minutes passed. A scraping sound came from the passage. Mara's heart began pounding. The beast appeared. Black fur. Old scars. Burning eyes. The same creature. Not the same night. It entered slowly. Mara forced herself not to retreat. The beast lowered its head and inhaled. A growl shook the chamber. Mara, she whispered, though she knew the creature already knew exactly who stood before it. It moved closer. She could run. The open doorway remained behind her. She stayed. You found me. Another step. Its teeth showed. Mara's fear surged, but she remembered Kael's confession. The beast did not understand the difference between protecting and possessing. She did. And Kael did. That difference had to matter. Mara raised her hand exactly as she had before. The beast stopped. I'm here because I chose to come back. Its eyes fixed on her palm. But you don't get to keep me because you want me. The beast advanced. Mara's hand trembled. No, it stopped again. Somewhere behind those burning eyes, she needed Kael to hear her. You told me. You understood the difference. The creature's claws scraped stone. You said you had to. Another growl. Mara refused to lower her hand. So choose. The beast lunged forward. Mara's body screamed at her to run. She stayed. Its jaws stopped inches from her. Hot breath struck her skin. For one terrible moment, instinct and reason seemed balanced on the same edge. Then the beast lowered its head toward her hand. Mara did not touch it. Not yet. Your choice, Kael. The creature trembled. Its claws dug furrows into the floor. Then slowly it stepped backward. Once. Twice. Mara's breath broke. The beast threw back its head with a roar that shook dust from the ceiling. Its body convulsed. Mara remained where she was as the enormous shape collapsed, limbs changing, black fur retreating until a man lay on the stone floor. Kael. Human. Unchained. Mara rushed forward, stopping just before touching him. His eyes opened. Mara. You came back. Yes. His hand lifted toward her. Then stopped. Even now he waited. Mara closed the final distance herself and took it. Above them, the alarm bells fell silent. Varric had wanted the council to see a king ruled by a beast. Instead, his broken containment had given them proof of something he had never expected. Kael had been offered the one thing his feral instinct wanted most, and he had chosen to let her remain free. By dawn, the fortress had become quieter than Mara had ever known it. The red moon had disappeared beyond the mountains, leaving pale morning light across the courtyard. Soldiers had lowered their weapons. The council members who had witnessed the broken containment no longer spoke of an uncontrollable king. They had seen the beast find Mara. More importantly, they had seen it stop. Lord Varric's plan had not vanished with the night. There were consequences. The broken lock, the altered guard orders, and the deliberate opening of the containment chamber were investigated before the council. The evidence established that Varric had engineered the breach to force Kael's condition into public view. He had wanted proof that the Alpha King could not control himself. Instead, he had endangered the fortress to manufacture. By midday, Varric had been removed from his position pending judgment by the council. Mara watched none of it. She remained in the royal wing while Kael recovered. When he finally came to her, he wore no gloves. The scar across his hand remained. For a moment neither spoke. Mara looked at the hand that had once carried the same wound she had bandaged on the beast. So what happens now? Kael's expression was calm, but she could see uncertainty beneath it. That depends on you. She raised an eyebrow. That sounds unfamiliar. It is. Despite everything, Mara almost smiled. Kael did not. I kept you here without your consent. You thought you were protecting me. That does not change what I did. He stepped closer, then stopped before the distance became intimate. I won't do it again. Mara studied him. And the beast. Still part of me. You controlled it. One night does not erase what I am. No, she appreciated that he did not offer her an easy promise. Kael looked toward the window. I spent years believing control meant chains. Then I believed it meant keeping you far enough away that I could never choose wrongly. His gaze returned to her. I was wrong about both. Mara waited. The gates are open to you, he said. No guards will follow you. No order will bring you back. The words should have felt like victory. Instead, they felt like the completion of something she had demanded from the beginning. Choice. If I leave, I let you. And if the beast wants to follow? Pain flickered through his expression. I stop it. Even if I never return? Kael was silent for one heartbeat. Yes. That answer mattered more than any declaration could have. Mara packed the same small bag she had carried the previous evening. This time, no emergency followed her departure. No alarm bells. No rider. No beast hunting through the forest. Kael kept his promise. For several days, Mara remained beyond the fortress. She walked where she wanted without guards counting her steps. She slept without wondering whether the king had decided where she would be tomorrow. And in that freedom she discovered something important. She did not miss being protected. She missed him. Not the Alpha King who could command an entire fortress. Not the beast that could terrify a council. Kael. The man who had spent every day wanting her, and every night fearing that wanting could become ownership. The man who, when instinct demanded he take, had stepped backward instead. So Mara returned. The guards at the fortress gate recognized her immediately. None tried to stop her. None summoned Kael. She crossed the courtyard alone and entered the eastern tower. Down the familiar stairs. Past the iron fittings. Toward the stone chamber where everything had begun. The door stood open. Kael was inside. Human. Unchained. He turned when he heard her footsteps. Surprise crossed his face. Mara. She stopped at the threshold. The first time she had stood there, someone had shoved her inside. She had heard the lock fall behind her, and believed the only choice left was how she would die. Now there was no guard at her back. No command. No chain. Only an open door. Kael remained where he was. He did not reach for her. You came back. Yes. Why? Mara looked around the chamber. She remembered the bowl of water sliding across the stone. The torn cloth around a bleeding limb. A terrifying creature lowering its head into her hand. Then she looked at the man standing before her. Because now I know both of you. Kael's expression tightened. And you're not afraid? I didn't say that. A faint smile touched his mouth. Mara stepped across the threshold. Kael still did not move. You can leave whenever you want, he said. I know. If there is another red moon, I know. If I ever stop giving you that choice, I'll walk out. His smile disappeared. Good. Mara crossed half the distance between them. Kael waited. She understood now that this was his choice too. Not to chase. Not to claim. Not to turn love into another lock. He had once made her his target because something feral inside him could not stop searching for her. Now he simply stood still and allowed her to decide whether she wanted to be found. Mara crossed the remaining distance. Kael's hand rose, then paused between them. She took it herself. His fingers closed gently around hers. Are you certain? He asked. Mara glanced back at the doorway. Still open. Then she looked at Kael. Yes. She reached behind herself and pulled the door inward. Kael's eyes followed the movement. The door closed with a quiet sound. Mara left the lock untouched. The first time she had entered this chamber, she had been trapped inside with a beast and prayed only to survive until morning. This time she had walked in freely. And the door was still hers to open.